What's up, guys? This is the Cali B podcast, and I have a very special guest in the South, because I can't get it out of my head. She's actually here on the podcast, but she's from the South. I don't know what it is about the South. It's got to be the Midwest roots in me, but I seem to attract a lot of that Southern hospitality when it comes to other coaches. Like I got Foster Fastpitch. I got Lacey Williams with Major Swings. I don't know if you know who she is. And then DR3, like it's crazy. And then here is this young pitching coach. She's been in the game as a coach for 2 years. You guys might know her. Her business name is legit. It is called Reap the Harvest. I love that. For all my faith believers out there, you know exactly what that means. This is Maddison Garland, former collegiate softball pitcher, and she is going to break it down first time on a podcast, and she's here on my podcast. So I'm super excited to have you, girl. So how's your day going?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. Everybody's gone. The house is quiet until like a bird flies by or a cat walks by. My dog's going to go off the chain, but hey, it's very organic around here. So
That's awesome.
I love it. How's the weather out there? It's hot here.
It is beautiful. We went to the movies today to escape the heat with my little kiddos. They're 3 and 5.
Oh, nice.
So that is what most of my life is taken up with, is my kids. And then we're starting homeschool in the fall. So not only is softball getting busy, but so is life.
Yes, this is true. I remember that when there was just 2 and they were little. And we're obviously done with 3, and now 1 in college, 1 in high school, and 1 in middle school. It's crazy. So with that being said, I just want to share with people like kind of how our paths met. Shout out to Instagram.
Right.
This is kind of where I really like to utilize my community of coaches. And I always tell my clients, if there's ever something I can't figure out, I have created quality relationships with other coaches throughout the United States. And you are one of those coaches. I love watching your content on Instagram. I love doing your drills. I kind of started doing all this through Carrie Foster with Foster's Fast Pitch. I would just start doing a drill and I would tag her. And then all of a sudden I started just doing it with everybody. And it just created this almost like a sisterhood, I think, amongst a lot of us. And I'm looking forward to the National Fast Pitch Coaches Association Conference. I hope you're going. It's December 6th.
I'm trying to figure it out.
It's in Louisville, so it's not too far from you. I mean, it's really far from me.
Right.
So if I can make it, you better make it, girl.
Yeah,
But
I mean too.
yeah, you need to make it, because that with Danielle with DR3, like that's where I'll never forget that moment. I walk in the bathroom, she's getting ready to walk out, and she's like, "Oh, Callie V." And it was like, oh my gosh. And just huge connections were made, you know. So I highly, highly recommend, not just for the value, the content that you're going to get there, but the relationship value that you get out of attending a conference like that. Like it's amazing.
Absolutely.
So, but let's get into it. I told you I wasn't going to do a lot of research on you because I wanted you to have a safe space, a safe platform to tell your story. This is the first time. And when you reached out to me through Instagram, it was kind of like one of those moments where we could have kept talking, but it was like, we got to stop because I want to keep it, organic. I want to just let it flow. But the one thing you did let me know, and this was kind of what sold me, this is why I wanted you to be on my show, is you said you had the story. Like you never wanted to be a coach because of your experience. And when I say the story, I think everybody has a story. But for me, when somebody tells me that, it's the story, because this is the story that shifted your life into coaching when you least expected it. So this is a lot of your origin story. This is kind of the foundation of what you do. So this is why this particular episode is going to be powerful. It's going to be blessed. And we're just going to start off with a little prayer real quick. So if y'all want to pray with me, please, if you're driving, do not close your eyes. All right. All right, here we go. Heavenly Father, Lord, I just thank you for this day. I thank you for the relationships that you have brought into not only my life, but Madison's life. and the other coaches that I mentioned, and the more we have yet to even meet, Lord. I pray favor over our businesses as well as our families and every child and every young lady that we come across as coaches. I pray that we can speak into these kids and these young athletes and be a light for you, Lord, to let them know that past softball, they are going to live a rich life, Lord. I thank you for the opportunity to have this great conversation with Madison. And I pray favor over this particular episode that it impacts not just one, but many, many coaches, many athletes that find themselves in a jam. And I just pray for guidance as she is going to navigate this conversation. I pray that you protect her heart and you just let her know that you're just sitting shotgun with her and you're just riding this wave with her, Lord. In your heavenly name, I pray. Amen.
Amen. That hit so close to home. That was the perfect prayer for just everything that's been going on this past week. We just had vacation Bible school that I was a teacher of, and the whole thing was shine Jesus' light. So when you said, shine the light, that really resonated with me because that's been a huge topic on my heart lately. Like, what is your eternal light? Like, what do you feel like you have inside of you? I know I've always struggled with my light. Who am I individually, not by what I produce on the softball field, not what I produce academically. We have all these expectations that we're given as children and as athletes and players. And how do we find who we are outside of that? Who are we truly? And really the only way to find that is through the Lord. And it took me a long time to figure that out. But I guess I will start kind of from the beginning of my whole time, just how softball kind of came into my life. I started playing softball. I was at my sister's practices, pitching at 3 years old on the sideline. And I always had this competitive drive that I wanted to be better than anybody out there. And I wanted center stage. So I was that little 3-year-old that was dancing on the beach and everybody was laughing at because I loved the attention. But I also realized too, with attention comes parents and people trying to hush you, kind of dim your light a little bit. Like you have to stay in the lines. And I was not a stay in the lines kind of kid. Mm-hmm. I like to push those boundaries. I was very energetic, enthusiastic, competitive, aggressive. That was me as a child. So as an adult, I found out I have ADHD. So that's probably what was going on. I didn't know at the time. But as that little kid, I wanted to be the best I could be. So I was imitating my sisters out there on the sidelines. And that went on for years. And I played 1 year of Coach Pitch. And basically they were like, you're a little too hard for these other kids. So you need to go to travel or, find something that challenges you a little bit. So my dad had taken me to the tryouts and I was 8 at the time, or 7 when I tried out, and I turned 8 shortly after for a 10U team. And they were one of the best softball teams in Maryland at the time. And I didn't think I would make it. My dad just kept telling me, you're really young, go out and do your best. But remember, you're young. If this doesn't work out, that's okay. There's other things that we can do. Well, I ended up making it basically as that last final fill-in player. And I was so blessed to have one of the most amazing coaches that would really spark my love for softball. He made sure that every single player played. He made sure that every single player knew the foundations and really pushed fundamentals. It wasn't so much about wins and losses. It was about us building a love for the game, building a love as a team, just the culture that he created on that little 10U team to me the rest of my life. I just developed this love that was undeniable. That year, my dad he tells this story all the time. It's one of his favorites, but that travel coach put me in a pinch hit situation. And I was an outfielder, sat the bench, maybe pinch ran a little bit. And he had so much faith in me, my little 8-year-old self. We were playing in nationals and we were down a run. And this would mean we would go home. So if we lost this game, we would go home. The last inning, 2 outs, he puts me in to hit. My dad is pacing the outfield like, what in the heck is this guy doing? Like, he is a fool. And I swing at strike 1. I'm ready. I'm eager. Like, there was no fear in me at all. Swing at strike 2. And my dad's like, even more like, oh my gosh, she's going to lose it. Like, why would he do this? Well, then I went on to hit up the middle and scored 2 runs, and we won the game.
Oh,
So just that moment, he probably didn't think a whole lot that it would impact my life, but like, he had so much faith in me and he believed in me that I didn't have any fears going into that at bat. I wasn't worried if I struck out. I didn't think I was going to lose the game. I was going up there to play and have fun. And I look at so many kids that I see now and I'm like, where is this? Where is that fearlessness to just go play and have fun and shine your light essentially on that field? And that's something that has really drove me, like, why did I not have any fear in that situation? But so many of the kids that I see on a daily basis have this instilling fear of failure.
so I want to stop you right there because my mind's got a good question for you. This is something that I've been, pondering, especially after coaching the softball side of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes softball camp, like the multi-sport camp this summer. You get kids from multiple backgrounds, kids that have never known who God was, kids who have heard about God, but it's not trending, or kids that have like, hey, I'm all bought in because it is trending, but they don't understand that they have the opportunity to accept the Lord as their Savior. And I have the same question. I'm like, where is this fear coming from? And I think a lot of it is because the metaphor that I was hearing and seeing, the vision of this coach in your life was like, literally, Jesus was your coach. Like, Jesus was like, hey, you're up to bat. And you're like, you're my dude. Like, you're where all my strength comes from. I have no fear because fear is not from God. And I feel like right now, as coaches, especially coaches that have the faith in their foundation, that do believe in God, we are more sensitive to the kids who are so full of fear. And we're like, where is this coming from? Well, sister, if they don't have Jesus in their life, you and I both know where it's coming from. And
Absolutely.
it's hard because as a parent, I've always thought, gosh dang, I've got to compete with the world. My kid, like you're getting ready to homeschool your kids. I think we missed the ship on homeschooling. I think maybe we were the last. I think there's going to be more homeschooling, because there for a while, it was like my husband and I were like, the world has more time with our kids than we do. And it is so stinking scary. And so when we get those kiddos that come into our tunnels and we're coaching them and we're teaching them, hey, you're good. You don't need to have fear. Don't even allow fear to come in the door. Like, mentally shut the door. I also want to turn around and say, it's just the devil. Like, don't give the devil any attention. And I know for us as Christian coaches, it's difficult when we do deal with, secular issues. Like, people, I've never had to this day, knock on wood, I'm gonna knock on my head because it's always on my shoulder. Thank you, Jesus. But I've never had a parent say, you can't mention God. And that is something that I pray about. Like, I'm not praying for Christian kids, but I'm praying for protection. And I'm sure you and I are going to talk about this in 2 weeks, because both you and I we're both going to be tested now, because this is going to go public and we're going to have a tough situation. If not tomorrow, it's going to be in the next 2 weeks. But here's
Absolutely.
the separation factor between how you and I coach and how the world coaches. We coach with Christ. There's a big difference. We're not tooting a horn. That doesn't make us better coaches than the next coach. It just allows us to pull into more strength. And that's the kind of strength, that's the kind of fearlessness that we are trying to get our kids to feel, to understand. So that's like when you were telling that story of your little self being fearless, because I've never been diagnosed with anything. I probably do have something, but I was the same way. I was the kid that always got told to sit down, shut up. I always had to be moving. all the time. Math, numbers, direction, no, thank you. I can write a great story though.
Yep,
Okay.
me too.
I'm a beast athlete. You tell me to do something, I'm gonna do it. Like that's just I'm very competitive. So we have a lot of that same thing. And I just didn't have fear. And I want to say, like, I love how you started off the story with the little version of Madison, because what breaks my heart as a coach and as a mom is when we get into college and we get to that level, that one coach can literally take away everything that we felt for that coach in our early years as Big Maddi. So it's like they like those coaches in college, like they think they can talk how they want to talk. But bottom line is you are speaking to another person. You are speaking into someone. You are either going to break them or you are either going to make them, right? And if you break them, you better build them back up. And that's where I think a lot of collegiate coaches in every sport get it wrong. Their ego completely takes the wheel.
Yep.
So I want to talk about how you shared your early years, but how was it in middle school like that? Let's go to the like 13 to 16 years of age gap, because I feel like in just those short amount of years, there's so many emotions that can happen.
Absolutely. So I'm going to start a little bit younger just because
Okay.
those 2 years leading up to 13, I started playing 18U Gold when I was 13. So my 13 to 18 range is kind of similar.
Okay.
The story is kind of stagnant there a little bit, but my years coming up to those teenage years, I hit puberty very late. So I was always that tiny, scrawny kid. Now I'm 6 foot, but I was not 6 foot back then. I was always very short and small, and I was a shortstop. That was my other position that I went on to play. But I had a lot of daddy ball. So everyone in the softball row is familiar with that. I was always told that I couldn't pitch or I wasn't good enough. So they would put me at shortstop or outfield. I was never given that opportunity, mostly because I feel like it was more daddy ball, but I also was like, all right, cool, I'll go play that position. I was just happy to play.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted that on the field, in the game. I had to be involved in it.
You were a
And
gamer.
for a while, right. And for a while, I felt like I wasn't a pitcher anymore. Yeah, if you need me, cool, I can still be a part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
But that was, I was a shortstop or I was an outfielder. And so when I decided to go 18U Gold after having these coaches who didn't believe in me, I again sat the bench. I was now the little dog on a big 18U team. Again, I was playing with college kids who were committed to college going in the fall, and I was still this scrawny little kid. Basically,
Dang.
you can imagine like a seventh grader type
Mm-hmm.
age look. And so I played outfield, pinch ran a little bit, and I can remember one of my only at bats I got that year. I actually hit my first over the fence home run because I just wanted the game so bad. But I was defeated mentally. Like I really thought maybe it's time to give up pitching. This is taking up too much time. Like why practice if I'm not going to be given the opportunity? I enjoy doing it. It's something me and my dad have always had a really good relationship in the backyard, playing catch, pitching. Half the time we were doing like 50% pitching underhand, and he was goofing off back to me. So it was a bond between my dad and I, but I also like, why am I doing it? Because nobody believes that I can do it.
So you just kind of quit working on it.
Right. Well, then I tried out for a new team because that team kind of had dissolved because all the effort was put into the seniors that were leaving, not necessarily the kids who were going to stay. So I'm not sure. Terry Burdett was my coach. He coached for the Heartbreakers in Maryland. They actually just won the World Series in Oklahoma City this past week. So
Oh,
that was awesome.
congratulations. Yeah.
Yes. But he was on the NFCA board. He was a very involved coach. He coaches at Hood College. He's a phenomenal coach in person. And he was the first person that looked at me like, wow, you're something special.
Oh.
And my catcher, who I threw to in tryouts, she was like, we're instant best friends. Like she came up to me at the tryout. That was the only, just throwing catch. She's like, we're best friends. I hadn't even made the team yet, and we're best friends. So she had welcomed me with open arms. Her name was Maddi too. And my coach just was like, you're like really took light to me. He saw my inner light. He
Okay.
really just, he took to me. And that was the first time I was like, wow, I can actually pitch. Like, I'm going to be one of your pitchers. Like, it was just a shock to me because I didn't think I could do it anymore. I thought that ship had kind of sailed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so to continue that next year, I was in 10th grade. My coach, we were playing in Florida at a showcase tournament, and my rise ball was hitting the ground. I'm like, that's my pitch, why is this hitting the ground? And then I started getting a pain up my arm. And I started to cry, and I'm not a crier.
Hmm.
And my coach knew I didn't say anything to anybody because, I got to play. Little pain, I got to play. I'm getting my opportunity to pitch. This is one of my first tournaments. And he walks out to the field and he sees I have tears in my eyes. And he's like, you're going to go on the bench and I'm not letting you pitch again until you go to the doctor. And so for someone to put my health first,
Yeah.
that was a first. And also to like know that winning this game in Florida in a big tournament is not worth me injuring myself any further because he
Yeah.
knew it was serious. I ended up going to the doctor. I had chipped the corner of my radius and tore my TFCC. So basically my TFCC, that tendon was all wrapped around my bone and it was all intermingled together. So I don't know how I was even moving my wrist like a rise ball.
Oh
When they
my
went in to do this,
gosh.
when they went in to do the surgery, they came out and they said her scar tissue is over a year old. So that whole year where I played in the outfield, I was actually hurt with a broken arm.
Bro, you like the metaphor I just envisioned is like trying to jack up a car and not being able to get the hinges to go because like you're trying to throw a rise ball and it's hitting the dirt.
Yep. And
Oh,
so they think that I had injured my arm because I worked so hard on a rise ball because, everybody loves a rise ball. So in my head, if I can get a rise ball, I
yeah,
can
if you can have
pitch.
that one tool pitch, right? Yes,
Right.
yes.
So I rise ball, rise ball, rise ball.
Yeah.
Well, another backstory, I have never had a pitching coach. So my pitching experience was me and my dad in the backyard. I would occasionally do some camps here and there, but it was all just in the backyard.
Mm-hmm.
So my knowledge of how to throw a rise ball was YouTube or a camp, trying to remember what I learned at the camp. So I had actually done a rise ball wrong. I was trying to do the doorknob and my bones had hit each other because they didn't cross fast enough. And that's how I had injured myself. So fast forward, I get my surgery in November. I'm playing in the spring. I played shortstop my freshman and sophomore year of high school. Again, my high school coach didn't think I could pitch. So there was a whole nother person that didn't believe in me. And then my junior year, my summer, right after my coming out of my surgery for my hand, my foot started to hurt.
Mm-mm.
And it was an achy foot, and same kind of thing. My dad took me to the doctor because he knew if I complained, it was serious. So he took me immediately this time.
Yeah.
And they kept saying, you have sesamoiditis. I'm like, all right. So boot, rest, not a huge deal, kind of like tendonitis. You can play through it, but you need to rest is
Yeah.
the end result. So I wore the boot most of the time, but I'm also getting recruited. So I was taking the boot off to play. Well, it never healed, and I was still having pain. And on the x-ray, if you know anything about the sesamoid bone, it's under your big toe. It's the levers that get your big toe to move. They're very small. They're like the size of a pea. The
Mm-hmm.
x-rays didn't show that it was broken the whole time. So I had broke my foot and I was playing on it. And then my bone died
Oh gosh.
because I had played on it so much.
Yeah.
So therefore I needed surgery the next November. And
Jeez.
during this time, I had committed to college, coming out of my 10th grade year, and I was taking my boot off to play so that my college coaches could see me. And then I needed another surgery. But this surgery wasn't an easy one. I think we went to 8 different doctors, and 5 of them were out of pocket because nobody would touch me because of my age. So they all said that if I remove this, you're never going to be able to run again. You're going to have a really high risk. Like if you break the other one, you're screwed. You're not even going to be able to walk properly.
Oh.
So nobody would give me the surgery. So here my career is over. And I decided, I'm starting to piddle in what is life without softball. Because at this point in my mind, I'm going to have to give up my scholarship. I'm going to have to stop playing softball because nobody would give me the surgery. Well, we prayed hard, like really, really hard. And I kind of lost myself biblically. I got away from the church. I grew up Pentecostal. My pastor called me out in the middle of a sermon for missing Sunday church, and I was picking a sport over Christ. So here I think everyone told me I was given a God-given gift, but it's, why would God give me a gift that I can't use? So I was very conflicted in that. So I was having a spiritual battle, a physical battle, and an emotional battle because I'm dealing with all these different aspects of softball and how it affected my life. And so I get the surgery. Finally, a doctor decided to do it. And I was back in 3 months, ready to roll. So we go on that year. We qualify for Oklahoma City for the first time in program history.
What school was that?
That was for travel ball. So this was still at travel ball.
Okay.
And I decided to transfer high school so I could get the opportunity to pitch because my travel ball coach, and now I'm recruited to a D1 school for pitching. I think it's only right to pitch in high school, which from a background, I don't have any experience pitching really. So how am I going to go into a D1 program, pitch every day when I have not done that my whole life? I transferred high schools, and the new high school coach asked me what my goals were. And I said, I want to beat the school I came from, and I want to win states. And if you looked at the team the year prior, it was a little bad news Bears-ish.
Yeah.
So the coach looked at me like I was crazy, but I was like, no, I'm here to win. And I'm here to show what everybody has doubted me on. And we ended up winning states. We beat the school for the first time ever.
Okay.
And I got player of the year. So all of the things that everyone has told me that I couldn't do, I started to do. And that really only came from that one coach that believed in me. Because he told me I could do it. My dad did a great job throughout the years, like building me up, like one pitch at a time. He was giving me all these mental talks, and it's your dad. So how much, like I took it in, but how much are we really absorbing?
Yeah.
So when someone else with value came to me and said that was special, it really meant a lot. And then I went on to do it again my senior year. We won states again. And I got more accolades. So that was really exciting. I even pitched a no-hitter my senior state game.
Nice.
So I started to get the recognition that I had been seeking. But then college. So I was that 5-year-old that I'm going to play on TV. I told everybody, that's going to be me. And I would imitate them in the backyard, all the fun wind-ups. I tried them all. I pretended that I was playing on TV. And so I got to college and I had just these big eyes for college softball. I'm like, I'm here. I'm ready to win. Like, this has been my dream my whole entire life. Like, I'm going to take them to the World Series. Like, that was my whole goal. And the program that I was in, it was all, we're going to build kids from the East Coast because the East Coast kids typically are a little bit looked lower on the totem pole because the West Coast is playing constantly. Softball is huge. The South, they're playing constantly. Up north, it snows. It's cold. So you don't get that play time that other people are getting to play. So they really had this motto, so to speak, that we're going to take East Coast kids and we're going to play in the World Series. So I was all about it. Like, that was all me, the, underdogs coming to win. That has been my life. So I was really ate up. And then our first day at school, one of the upperclassmen came to our dorm room and told us that we were not a part of the team yet. And we had to earn our spot and earn our respect, and that we weren't allowed to be seen with them and we weren't allowed to talk to them until that was done. So me, with my competitive attitude, I was like, yep, we're done. Like, even if we get to that point, you're never going to gain my relationship because of how you've treated me.
Yeah.
which was a little bit wrong, obviously. But at this time, I was not super, like, I didn't really believe in God. Like, I knew He was there, but like, He had let me down, so to speak, in my head. And why would you put these things in my life? Why would you do this to me? Why would softball almost get taken from me? Um, like, why would you do that? So when I got to college, I was bitter. Like, why would you send somebody to tell me that when I'm ready to be their teammate, they don't want to
Mm-hmm.
be mine? And so that was a big struggle. And then I was also out of shape. I never had personal training. Like, travel ball and practicing in the backyard were the most that I had ever really done. And so I was out of shape. So that was a whole other thing. I had stomach ulcers because I was so stressed to get back into shape. My foot injury started coming back up. I was having all these problems, and but I was playing. I was getting that mound time. It was going good. The fall was okay. Well, the winter got worse, and my coach just made me feel like I was the most unathletic one on the team because I'm a tall, scrawny kid. Um, I had hit 68 and they showed me the radar gun over the winter, and I had never done that before. Never thought I could do that. And I was like, wow, okay, I can compete with these
Yeah.
kids that I'm going to be playing against. Like, that was a little motivator. And then the spring came and the pressure came. And I was just never felt like home. They
Mm-hmm.
all talk that this is a home, this is a family, we're going to do this together. And I joke sometimes to some of my players, but I'm like, the meanest kids I ever met in my life were on my college team. And that was just the culture that was there. You know, it wasn't a family. It was every
Mm-hmm.
man out for themselves, and it showed. So it was a really heartbreaking time. And I went on to have some disc issues in my back, and I had numbness down my leg.
Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, those disc issues, those stemmed from your foot issue.
Yep.
Because anytime you have issues in your limbs, it'll start deteriorating your back.
Yep.
Dang, girl.
And I was in a boot all fall as well. So since the foot issue was coming, I was in a boot. And then that led to when I went to pitch, my back issue because I was
Mm-hmm.
in that boot wobbling and my surface was off. But I played through the spring. I got back injections. I was popping ibuprofen like it was candy. Horse liniment, if you've ever heard of it, it's a veterinarian ointment
Mm-hmm.
that they use for horses that I
Yeah.
bathed in.
Yeah.
So that got me through the spring, but I was so mentally belittled. I actually went through a time overhand. I was a shortstop my whole life. I could not throw from the pitcher's mound to first base. It would hit the ground between me and the first baseman. I had such a mental block that I could not throw overhand.
Dang.
And my college coach tried to teach me to throw overhand. I would sit to the side and try to throw overhand. And like, I literally felt like a toddler trying to take a step. Like, how do I do this? Like, I don't know how to throw overhand anymore. And it was all because I was so afraid to not be perfect.
Well, and I wanna stop you right there because I don't think it was so much that you were afraid of being you were afraid that you weren't gonna be perfect. It's like if we could bottle how we feel when we're little and, shake it out when we need it and drink it, as we're adults, it would be different. Because I guarantee you, if you approach that moment like you did your 8-year-old self, perfection wasn't even in your vocabulary at 8, probably. It probably wasn't even something that you knew about other than the picture on the wall is perfect, like that was an artist. I don't know. But I don't want to say that you had that mental block because you were trying to be perfect. It was you didn't know in that moment what you were able to lean on
Right.
because Jesus has brought you to the end of you.
Yep.
That was the FCA camp verse, John 3:30, increase him, decrease me. I witnessed it this weekend with my athletes on a travel ball team that I volunteer coach with. We were playing in anywhere from 110 to 117-degree weather. We played 7 games, went 3-3-1, and ended up taking second and qualified for AFA Nationals. And it was disgusting. Like, it was so gross out. And I watched girls literally, I'd check in with them, where you at? One of my pitchers actually, where are you at right now? 20%. I need 100 of your 20. Be present, be where your feet are right now. Where are you at? 5%. Give me 100 of your 5%. And then I checked in with her, and she was actually an athlete that went to camp and accepted the Lord as her savior, which was awesome. And I said, you know what you're experiencing right now, right? And she goes, my legs. And I said, baby girl, you are experiencing the Holy Spirit right now. I was like, you are not up there by yourself. And it's crazy when you get into that calm, when you allow yourself to stop worrying about the perfection and the fear of failure, all of a sudden you're in this calm space. And that's just God saying, I got you. I see you. I've always seen you, and I've always had you. Remember,
Absolutely.
he goes back for the one, right? So
from
it's,
there, I felt like I was lost.
yeah, no, like everything you're telling me, like when you said you were trying to figure out how to do life without softball, I remember when I got the blood clot in my brain, and through the blood clot that almost killed me because it was 98% occluded, they found I had a genetic clotting disorder that I was born with. Had no idea. I grew up rodeoing. We would ride steers, like everything. Like, why did you wait 20 years to tell me this? Why did you wait when I was getting ready to go play Division II softball? Why did you wait? Why didn't you just give me a tumor so they could just go in and take it out? How do I
Right.
do life without softball?
Right.
I like, remember the thing, you brought me back to it really quick. And I remember going through the angry phase, the like, I'm so mad at you. I don't even want to think about you, Jesus. But then it's almost like somebody has to die. Like, a part of you has to die.
Yeah.
So
So
keep on
that
going.
kind of the continuation of my story is really what I'm about to do. Is how do I live without softball? Because
Oh,
mentally, if I went back, I don't think I'd be sitting here.
mm-mm.
And it was bad. Like, I was at a low. My catcher, who was my best friend for travel, that
Mm-hmm.
instant meet and greet, she was my roommate in college. We got recruited together, and we were no longer friends.
Same thing happened to me.
And so my best friend, who I would rely on, I thought we were going to have this wonderful time. We're no longer friends. We can't even look at each other.
Mm-hmm.
I had to move out of my dorm room because it was so bad. So all of that mental, I was struggling in all different directions, not just softball, but on the field, it was really bad because I didn't have any fearlessness at all anymore. I was scared to perform, and I was scared to mess up, and I was just done. I had already checked out. I kind of knew it was the end. I went into my meeting at the end of the year with my coach, and I was like, I've hated every minute that I've been here from the day I stepped on this campus. I was like, I had bright eyes and I was excited. That first experience really diminished my light like that.
Yeah.
Trying to set the tone for the year. My college coach really, she saw the potential in me, and she tried to tell me what she saw. But I didn't believe it. And you didn't show me that you felt that way. In
Right.
private, you tell me this, but in front of the team, you don't show me this.
100%.
So at that time, I had decided, okay, I'm going to try. I'm going to try to come back. And I went home and I was ready to work out because that's what they all told me. I was too weak. I was too small. And I was also the tallest kid. And I also gained 60 pounds my freshman year.
Oh, dang. You didn't gain the 50. You gained the 60.
Yeah, girl,
Get
it
it,
was a
girl.
lot.
Get it, girl.
But I had left college, and then I realized that I can't go back. Every time I work out, something hurts to the point where I just want to cry.
Mm-hmm.
And I mentally still can't throw overhand. So how am I supposed to play Division I? I can't play catch. So I decided I wasn't going to go back. But I didn't tell my parents because I knew it would break their heart. And I just kind of sat on it. I didn't tell my coach yet. I was like, let me process. Let me give it a
Mhm.
month and see if my mind changes. Well, in that month, I met my now husband. We got set up on a blind date, and the blind date was awful, but for some reason, God led us together. Um, we going in the military, I was going back to school. It was a perfect scenario. We would kind of hang out for the summer and move on. Well, that didn't happen. We fell head over heels for each other, but looking back, it was all God. There was no way I would have ever met him unless it was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And even our first date, we're like, yeah, we want no strings. Like, I don't want a relationship. So that was what we had set out on. Within 2 weeks, we were pretty much dating. And his mom is a very faithful servant of the Lord. She prays hard. My mom was very faithful in prayer, and they probably didn't realize that's what they were praying for, but God had led us together, and we both were struggling with different things, and we helped each other through them. And it ended up getting married in November the next year. So I
Oh,
didn't go back
dang.
to, in everyone's eyes, I ran off and got married.
Slacker.
Right. And then I moved to Florida in February of that year. So I did online college, and I thought about going D3, D2 to see if that would lessen the stress. And I was like, no, I'm just done. I just mentally, I can't go back. Like, I call it my breakup with softball. It was a
Yeah.
really messy breakup. And I moved to Florida. So I moved to Florida. I don't have any family. I'm one of 5 kids. So family is huge in our house. There's only some cousin, somebody there. And I didn't have any family. I didn't have any friends. And that's when the breakup really set in, because who the heck am I without my family? Who am I without softball? And who am I as a wife? So I had all of these things hit me in February, the year after I stopped playing. And I was like, I definitely don't want anything to do with softball, because, whoa, that's a sensitive subject. And my parents blame my husband a little bit. That's why I didn't continue to play softball, but there was a whole lot more to it. And, it just wasn't healthy all the way around, because I made this quick decision that not everybody agreed with, but I felt like that was the best thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I went through a deep depression phase. I was trying to go home as much as possible because family is where I felt comfortable. And I just ran from all of my problems. And I did a marriage conference, a Christian marriage conference last year. And basically, I'm a stuffer. I like to stuff all my problems deep down in until it volcanoes out.
Mm-hmm.
So I stuffed all these feelings down. And then I realized, like, at my lowest point, I need to go to God. Like, there's no one else here for me. My husband can't fulfill me. My parents can't fulfill what I'm searching for. Softball can't fulfill what I'm searching for. I have nothing left. So I ran to God, and I found God in my own way, because I had veered from him in high school because it was kind of pushed on me. So when I searched God on my own, I started to really truly find who he was and what he could do for me. And he transformed my life. And then I ended up getting pregnant. And when my son came, I had postpartum because I never dealt with those emotions. And we were hit by a Cat 5 hurricane right after I had my son. He was 2 months old. And how do you deal with your whole life just getting ripped away from you? We just bought our house. We just had a baby. Like, we thought we were settling down.
Mm-hmm.
And a hurricane hit. So this is just my life. Something always hits. Like, something.
Come on, you're a gamer. Things come in threes. Like, it's
Yes.
like, okay, one more thing, one more thing, one more thing. Okay, we can breathe. Okay, one more thing, one more thing.
So the hurricane hits. We live at home at my parents for 8 months because the military doesn't know where they're going to send us at. And we were just living in that 8 months, like, tomorrow we're going to know where we're going. Tomorrow we're going to know where we're going. And that didn't happen for 8 months. And then we finally moved, and I had my daughter right after that. And then we moved to Virginia. So during all this time, I'm battling with all these changes. We've lived in 7 houses in 4 years, and I have never felt that homey feeling. I lived in
Yeah.
the same house my whole life. I had a big family. Like, people were always over, gatherings, parties. Like, that was what I was comfortable with. And so I had struggled with, who am I in all of this? And then we moved to Virginia and somehow find this house in a really desirable area. We didn't know it at the time. We bought it before we even got here. And it was not the best house. It was,
Oh,
I actually looked at it the first time and I was like, yeah, no,
yeah.
that's a no. We're not going to look at that one again. For some reason, we were led to this house, and then I was looking at preschools because my son was going to go to preschool. We found a church that in our town, in our little town, that does preschool. So I was like, let's go check it out just in case we want to send our kids there. And my son walked right into classroom, and he had suffered from separation anxiety because of only being with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, like, I guess he just picked our church, which has become a huge family for us. Like, we have found our family here, outside of our biological family. And during all this time, I haven't touched a softball since I left college. I never once tried to throw. I never once tried to pitch. I hadn't picked up a softball, and I left all of that at my parents' house. And we moved in Virginia. My husband was talking to somebody, and he was like, yeah, my wife used to play softball. I'm sure she could help your daughter out. And I'm like, no,
Can't even play catch.
Not, you know. And I ended up doing it. He was like, it would be great side money for you to go get coffee with your friends because the military doesn't get paid a whole lot. So we were on a tight budget. And I'm like, you're right. I do need to get out. That's something easy I can do.
Mm-hmm.
So I took the step and just taught this girl how to throw overhand. And this was almost 2 years ago. And it evolved. This person needs help. This person needs help. And then I'm like, okay, like, I do enjoy this a little bit. This is fun for me. And then I realized that I had created a business. And I wasn't ready for it. Because now I'm seeing kids every single night of the week. And I don't have a place for when it rains. I don't really know what I'm doing. Pitching has evolved since I was taught how to pitch. I'm not helping these kids. Like, what is going to be my goal into helping these kids? And I really just prayed hard, like, what are you doing, Lord? Because now I know that everything you put me through was for a reason. And this is why you led me back to it. And it has completely healed who I am as a person.